Hey, kia ora, Helen Brahms here, coming to you live from Mesa, Arizona. It has been an amazing, amazing day, and I just realized I don't have something with me. Oh, sorry, Casey, I forgot to grab your new little buddy. So I'll have to show you Casey's new little buddy tomorrow night. But if you've already been on my Facebook page, you would have seen Casey's new little buddy. He was cuddled up underneath Casey's beak on the table in front of me today at training. So I got to do an amazing, amazing day of training. One of the vendors I work with who do Australia, New Zealand, the South Pacific, Asia, and Africa, put on an amazing training event where they brought in vendors and I'm trying to find my notes from today. They did a destination training day. So they brought in Australia tourism, New Zealand tourism, Taiwan, Thailand, Korea, South Korea. Hang on, let me go around the room. Australia, Queensland was there as well, for Queensland and Australia. AAT Kings, New Zealand, Cathay Pacific, Thailand, South Korea, Taiwan, South Africa, Victoria Falls Safari Lodge, Kenya, and Hong Kong. So there was a lot of information today, and they managed to get it all in there and give us lunch and give us this. It was an incredible day. They always, I love their destination trainings that they do. They do them. Well, I went to last year's one, and that's where I got to hear not almost the same crew, but it was all different people from last year anyway. And they had some different countries there as well. But it was really good learning. Some of it was refresher for me, and a lot of it was new. So that was really, really cool. Some of the things that amazed me, that one of the beaches, and I can't remember the name of the beach, but it's on the Whitsunday Islands, has silicon sand that was actually used in the Hubble telescope. I thought that was really cool. Let's see, what else did I put on here? I learned that a sand key, which is C-A-Y, a sand key is a small island made of sand surrounded by fringe reefs. And fringe reefs are ones that you can just walk out on the beach and straight onto the reef, not ones that you have to swim out to. Let's see, what else did we learn about today? Oh, I've got pages of notes here. I'm just trying to pull out the real big highlights. It's been a very busy day. We got to hear about AAT Kings that do guided vacations, and they can do everything from the full bus tour down to short 2 to 5 day breaks to day tours to inspiring journeys. And inspiring journeys just absolutely floored me. They are small group experiences with a maximum of 20 people, and they just they've got 4 pillars that they work on: discover, explore, immerse, and relax. And their inspiring journey is just amazing. It was sort of like, I'll go right now, give me a ticket, I'm off. They were just really, really cool, but then deciding how to go. Then I learned about a new thing in New Zealand. So I've never heard about this before, but apparently they just celebrated their 1-year anniversary, and it's the Taikai Promise, which is the whole country along with the travel community and us travel professionals educating our clients on this as well. We're all making this commitment to care for New Zealand now so that it's available for future generations. There's a lot of stuff going on in New Zealand where it's getting over a lot of tourists coming in, and it's getting very heavy on the tourist season, so it's getting almost overpopulated with tourists and stuff. Basically, we're asking people just to clean up after yourselves, drive safely, because most of the road accidents that happen in high tourist areas are caused by tourists because they're not used to driving on the other side of the road. So it's just, drive safely, clean up after yourself, be eco-friendly, so recycle, all that sort of good stuff, and just leave your footprints. So that's one thing they're looking at. let's see, learned some stuff about Tahiti, got taken on this really cool little journey around Tahiti. We learned about small ship cruising that takes place in Australia, Vietnam, Botswana, and French Polynesia. So nice small boats. One of them I actually happen to know only has 14 cabins on board, and that's the one that's the Zambezi Queen on the Chobe River. The other ones I'm not sure on cabin size, but they were all small ships, so less than 100 people on those. Had a look at the Cathay Pacific planes. They actually, we started off with Air New Zealand, that's right. Air New Zealand was the first one because that takes you down to Australia and New Zealand. And then for the Asia portion, which was after lunch, they started on Cathay Pacific. And their thing is, don't look back to see how far we have come, look beyond to see how far we are going. I thought that was really cool. But seeing some of the photographs of, like in their first class on some of their big planes, they have less than 10 seats in first class, but they have a huge business class area with seats that all go flat. I thought that was really cool. Hong Kong was just learning about that was really cool. Like you need no, if you're a US passport holder, you don't need a visa to go to Hong Kong. And there's a way you can get a free 4-day visa to go into China for 4 days. Hong Kong's becoming the events capital. It's great outdoors. I'm going to be doing some more training on, because I get a lot of clients who want to do adventure stuff, who want the adrenaline rush and that sort of thing. And usually I send them down to New Zealand, but now I've got somewhere else I can send them. So I'm going to be doing some training on some more training on Hong Kong to find out exactly what type of adventures and stuff that you can do there. We got to see about Thailand, which is the land of smiles. So I'm going to fit in really well there. No visa for up to 30 days on a US passport. They speak both Thai and English there. They have, get this, in Thailand, they have 41,205 temples, 1,430 islands that make up Thailand. I thought that just... and learned that you can go, if you go north into Chiang Mai, they have the elephant sanctuaries up there, and you can go and you actually get to own an elephant for the day. So you get to follow along behind it, you get to pick up its dung and take care of it and everything else. And I thought that would be such a cool experience. They even have things, and this one just cracked us up, where you can even learn to make elephant poo-poo paper. Yes, it is a thing. You make paper that you can actually write on out of elephant poo. I'm just sort of like, you know, I probably would give that a go. If I had an adopted elephant for a day, I would probably give that a go. You know, how many times can you say, I went to Thailand and I learned to make elephant poo-poo paper, and do it with a straight face? They also teach you how to do the traditional indigo dye, which I thought was really cool, because that stuff just fascinates me. So there was some really cool stuff in Thailand, and depending which area you go to, is whether it's beaches, whether it's in the mountains, what temples to go to, what temples not to go to. They've got festivals all year. They've got a great health and wellness program within Thailand as well. I mean, a full body massage for $10. I'm like, yeah, sign me up for that. South Korea was really cool to learn about, because I basically know nothing about South Korea, so that was all learning and quickly scribbling things down. But they have 5,000 years of history, 51 million people in a country that is about 20% the size of California. Think about that. 51 million people in a country that's 20% the size of California. Only a fifth of the size of California. I thought that was amazing. They have 201 flights a week leaving from the States and flying there. They go anywhere from 10 to 14 hours, depending where you're departing from. And you get a 90-day free visa on US passports. And they've even got these, a lot of the places you can stay in Korea, they have these homestays that you can do, where you get to stay in a home, you get to have the traditional, you get to have, sit with the family, have their meals, they take you around, that sort of stuff. I thought that would be so cool. I'll sign up for that one too. They have a place there that's got that's just a museum with no walls, because you just walk around and there's all this beautiful artwork and everything else, and everything. It was just, you know, they got this tropical hideaway. I mean, they were going through the film so quickly. I was just like, I can't keep up. And they have, apparently on Netflix, there's a program called Chef's Table, which I have not seen. And in season 3, they have a very well-known chef from South Korea who is a monk, and she makes the most amazing dishes and stuff. And they can actually arrange for you to have cooking lessons from her as part of your trip to South Korea. So I thought, yes. And in South Korea, they have 26 Michelin restaurants. Well, that was pretty cool. But you go to the markets, you do the street food, all of that sort of stuff. And apparently one of their delicacies for dessert is sweet cream pancakes. I'm just like, the sweet cream pancakes? I'm in. Then we learned about Taiwan, and Taiwan's square mileage is about the same size as the state of Maryland. There's 130 nonstop flights every week from the US, and US citizens, again, free visa up for 90 days. It is the second safest country in the world, in Taiwan. Second safest country in the world. It's just, he calls it the sweet potato because he said it basically looks like a sweet potato. And when you look at the shape of the country, you thought, yeah, he's kind of right. They have all their metro system is open till midnight. You can get 1 to 3 day travel passes to go on the metros and stuff. It takes you 90 minutes on the high-speed train to go from the northern tip of Taiwan down to the southern tip of Taiwan, and you go around the outside. Throughout the whole of Taiwan, they have the iTaiwan, which is free Wi-Fi. Wherever you go, they have free Wi-Fi available in Taiwan. You can do, they have, if you are on a transit or a layover, so if you're in transit, if you're a transit passenger of 7 to 24 hour, with a 7 to 24 hour layover, they've actually got these free half-day tours that you can do. I thought, what a great way to get people to get out of the airport and see the country. You know, they've got like 7 to 24 hours before I've got to be back at the airport and stuff. And you can go, I mean, it takes you 90 minutes to get from Taipei down to hang on, it was Taipei. You know, it takes you like 90 minutes to go from one end of the country to the other on the high-speed train, and you've got 7 to 24 hours to kill. That's awesome. I mean, you know, a free half-day tour if you've got 7 to 24 hours. That's like awesome. And there's 24 Michelin restaurants, and they got the saying, east or west, food is the best. And then the other thing that got me too is that they have they speak. Did I write it down? They've got 3 languages. I know that they have, in this small space, in the size of Maryland, they have 16 different tribes that each have their own language. So not only do they have the language that that everybody in Taiwan will speak, they also have 16 tribes that have their own language. And I'm like thinking, you got something the size of Maryland, and there's 16 indigenous tribes in there that all have their own language. I'm like, wow, that is just like awesome. Plus, Taiwan is also the home of the Kavalan whiskey that has won over 270 gold medals, and you can actually go and do whiskey tastings at the factory, and you can make your own whiskey at the factory. And I thought, well, for whiskey drinkers, and I know a few of those, that would be awesome, an awesome trip. They also have like tea tasting where you go to a tea farm and you see how the tea's grown and harvested and all that sort of stuff, and you get to do tastings. They have the annual lamp festival. They've got the National Palace Museum. There's more than 2,000 temples. I'm like, it's the size of Maryland. There's more than 2,000 temples. Plus, you've got your 16 tribes with their own languages. I mean, this was just like, and their cycling paths that they have there in the Sun Moon Lake cycling path is listed as one of the top 10 most beautiful bike paths in the world by CNN. So that was kind of cool. And they have this cycling festival every year. They have more than 100 hot springs. More than 70% of the island is mountainous. And I'm just sort of like, this is like a very compact New Zealand, you know, without 16, you know. So that was really cool to learn about Taiwan and Korea, because I didn't know a lot about either of them. So a little bit of mind-blowing stuff going on there. Then we had South Africa come up, and South Africa says, you know, everybody's all talking about the safaris. South Africa is twice the size of Texas. You need no shots or visas, just 2 blank consecutive pages in your passport. That's for US passport holders. There's great food and wineries all over the place. They've got these big foodie areas. There's no daylight savings there. They've got 2 really good train trips. One's the blue train, and I couldn't write fast enough to get the second one, so I'll have to look that one up. But they quickly took us through some of the, and I mean quickly, took us through some of the provinces and that. And I want to go back and do some more studying and learning on this area. And Kruger, of course, is the most well-known safari park in South Africa, but you've got to book it up 12 months in advance, and private game reserve there is the best way to go, because there's all these private areas within, and if you're not part of the private game reserve thing, you can't actually go into these areas even if you're in the park. And so Kruger has high prices, but they've got another one. Oh, jeepers, I can't even read my own writing on this one. Mandakaiwai, something like that. Game reserve where you can go over, and there's actually a wild dog there that's an endangered species, and I'm like, that's really cool. You know, not that it's endangered, but that they have a wild dog species that people want to go see. Then we had Victoria Falls Safari Lodge come on and talk, and they say, you know, you need a minimum of 2 nights. They actually showed us pictures of the falls in January, March, May, July, and November. So in January, it's pretty dry. There's just little trickles coming down here and there. In March, it's starting to fill up, and you've got the mist going. You've got some of the waterfall going, because the falls are, I thought I wrote it down, like 2 miles wide or something. Oh no, that was the avalanche. Different thing. But they've got this very wide, like a mile wide falls. I can't remember how wide the falls are, and it's starting to fill up. May, it absolutely full. There's water just gushing over the things. Then July, it's starting to dry up again. It's not as gushing as it was in May, and by November, it's dry again. And the only one that's really running is on the Zambezi side of the falls. So there's 2 sides to the falls, and Zambezi gives you the best viewing and everything else. No hotels in the area of the Victoria Falls actually overlook the falls. You can have rooms where you will see the spray come up from the falls, but no hotel in the area, you actually see the falls from the hotel. So you can't have a falls viewing room, which was kind of cool. Learn about Kenya, which was the birthplace of safari. And it's a $50 e-visa, and it's easier to do it online before you go rather than when you get there. And allows you for multiple entries and transit visas. They do advise you to do malaria medication and yellow fever shots, but they say go to a travel doctor, and they will tell you if you actually need them or not. So I thought that was kind of cool. But in Kenya, you've got the Karen Blixen Museum, and she's the one that wrote Out of Africa. You've also got the Giraffe Manor, where you can be sitting there having breakfast, and you've got the giraffe sticking his head through the window wanting some food as well. They have the Sheldrake Elephant Orphanage, and they have the Kazari Bead Factory, and I thought that was really cool. I want to go to the bead factory. I love beads. And they also showed us pictures of the Ark Lodge Hotel, which is where Queen Elizabeth was staying when she got word that her father had passed away, so she had to leave from there and get all the way back to England, because she was now no longer Princess Elizabeth, she was now the Queen. They have the Mount Kenya Safari Park there. Yeah, and that was a lot. My brain was so sore. I managed to get back to the hotel with no problem at all. It was just a 20-minute drive, and rush hour around here is not that bad. I drove up there at 8 o'clock this morning and got 30 minutes from here to there. Took me 30 minutes to get back in rush hour. So it was a really good day. Learned a lot, and I have notes to go back and do more training on some areas and things, because they just interested me so much. Like, I know nothing about Korea. I'm going to go do their specialist program for that. I know nothing about Hong Kong and Taiwan. I want to learn more about them, because they just absolutely, with what they were sharing with us today, just absolutely fascinated me. And it's like, I have to learn more. I may not sell them, but if people want to go, I will at least be knowledgeable. But I want to go for my own benefit, so I want to know more about the area that I'm going to, because I love to research areas before I go there. So that was my day. It was awesome. It was really, really good. Got to see some people I hadn't seen for a while. Got to meet lots of new people, make some new friends. Yeah, overall it was a really, really good day. And some of the photographs they were showing us was like, wow. And I don't know what was on this tab there. This picture of these kids, and I think it was the Kenya presentation. And there's these kids. They're standing there looking at what's obviously like an iPad, and two of the kids, like the one that was holding the iPad and the one just here over his shoulder, sort of had this look of like, wow, on their face, and these other kids behind them were just like, hey. I don't know what they were looking at, but their faces were absolutely gorgeous. But it was really cool to be able to meet with these people, get some questions answered for clients that are interested in going to these areas. So I can now go back to them and say, hey, you know that question that you had? Here's your answer. So, and now it's interested me more that I want to go learn more about these places. So overall, it was a very, very good day. On to James Bond. Okay, so what's happening with James Bond? Right. So we've still got, don't forget, we've got the James Bond competition going, and the competition is answering two very simple questions. What is the very first James Bond movie that I ever saw? Your clues so far, and the clues will only be available on the Facebook Lives. So the clues so far is, number one was, it was the very first James Bond movie I ever saw was on my very first date ever. My very first date was watching a James Bond movie. And the second clue is it had an Oscar, at least one Oscar nomination. Those are the two clues so far. I haven't worked on a third one. I'm working on a third one. And the other part of the question is, one, what was the movie that I was the first James Bond movie I saw, and who was playing James Bond? And the only way you can answer those is to send me a private Facebook message with your answers. And all you will get is, thank you very much for your submission. All will be revealed on December the 1st with the winners and what the actual answers are. And on December the 1st, we'll also announce what the prizes are too, because I'm still working on those. It'll be something cool. And so last night I got to watch On Her Majesty's Secret Service with a brand new actor as Bond, who turned out it wasn't actually an actor. He wasn't an actor at the time. So I literally just finished watching the special feature on the making of On Her Majesty's Secret Service. And because I like to watch that. But last night it was getting late and I was just like, I got to watch when I get back. And I got back, I was tired. I took a nap. I had some dinner, had to get on a conference call. So I've had a very busy evening since I got back. So I had like, was it like 45 minutes, and I sat down to watch a thing that was 43 minutes, and the 45 minutes took me to 8 o'clock, and I'm like, yes, I can get it in. But the book On Her Majesty's Secret Service was released in April of 1963. It was an instant bestseller. And On Her Majesty's Secret Service came out in 1969. They had Peter Hunt directing it, and he came straight from directing Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, which is one of my favorite movies. I love Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. Ever since I've seen that movie, I want to go see the Chitty Chitty Bang Bang Castle, and I learned later on that the Chitty Chitty Bang Bang Castle, whose name I can never pronounce or remember, is the same castle that was used as the inspiration for Cinderella's castle at Disneyland. So, but I always call it the Chitty Chitty Bang Bang Castle. And this time they decided the book was a really good story. It went more into who James Bond was and more of his personality and stuff. So they decided not to go very gadgety like the previous 5 movies had been. How they found George Lazenby was they were putting calls out for actors to come in for James Bond. It wasn't working. They couldn't find the right person to fit in because, of course, Sean Connery, his contract was up. The negotiations were broken down. He wasn't coming back. So they happened to be, Peter Hunt was it Peter Hunt? Yeah, he happened to be watching some commercials one night. And there was this guy there who was a model who was doing this commercial coming along in a boat, and it was for something called Big Fry. You know, he's carrying this big wooden crate on his shoulder, and it's got Big Fry written on it. I have no idea what the product is. And they actually liked him, so they got hold of his agent. His agent called him. He was actually in Australia at the time because he is Australian, and he was actually raised in the outback, so he had a very strong Aussie accent and the Aussie swagger. And his agent called him and said, "Can you get on a plane to London?" He says, "Well, I've got a job for you. What's the job? You're the next, James Bond." And it's like, okay. So he got on a plane, and before he went in for his interview with them, he went to the place that made the suits for Sean Connery for the Bond movies, and wanted a suit made for him. And they said, "Oh, it's going to take 6 weeks." He said, "I need one now." And they happened to have one there that was actually made for Sean Connery, but it hadn't been picked up. So they said, "We can give you this one." And he said, that was very short sleeved on him. It came to about here, so they had to add some onto the length, but everything else fitted perfectly. So he got the suit that Sean Connery was supposed to wear. Then he goes to Sean Connery's barber, and he's sitting there in the barber's chair getting his hair cut Sean Connery style, and who was it? Cubby Broccoli was sitting there getting his hair cut, and so Cubby Broccoli says he discovered him. But it turned out that George Lazenby was actually a model and not an actor, and he told the director this. He says, "I know nothing about acting," and if you watch the movie, for somebody who doesn't know how to act, he did an amazing job. So they actually had to bring in a voice coach to help him hide his very thick Australian accent. They had to, they saw him walking, and Peter Hunt said, turned around and went, no, you're not walking with that Australian swagger. He says, think of Prince Philip or one of the royal family. He says, walk like him. And so that's how he adapted his thing. They had to teach him, of course, how to fight Hollywood style and all that. And he's working with the stunt coordinator, and he had this big burly Russian guy there, and they were practicing the fight scene, and he actually took a swing at him and connected and broke the guy's nose. And the guy ended up down on the ground, and they said, "You're hired." And as I say, the rest is history. They started shooting on October the 21st, 1968 in Switzerland, in Marin, Switzerland. They had a former Olympic skier by the name of Willy Bogner, who was also a cameraman, shoot all the ski scenes in this. And there are some amazing skiing scenes in this. And they had George Lazenby on this. And I'll tell you what, he's got better with age. That's all I'm saying. Pretty good looking in 1969 in the movie, but seeing him in the interview in 1992, I actually think I prefer him older than younger. But anyway, he said that Willie could ski as fast backwards as George Lazenby was going forwards, and with a camera. So he did all the ski shots, and then of course they had Johnny Jordan, who we talked about yesterday. He was up doing all the flying shots and all of that sort of stuff, all the aerial shots for the skiing and everything else. And there was this going back in the actual movie, which I picked up, which they didn't even talk about in the making of it, because the movie, let's see, this was done in 92. So the movie wouldn't have been out at that point. So part of the thing is that James Bond has to go and meet with Blofeld, of course, his arch enemy of Spectre, and he's trying to find a way in. Blofeld is trying to become claim this Count title, and he's trying to wants the heraldry organization to come in and verify that he is actually part of this family and he's entitled to that Count designation. And so James Bond goes to the heraldry thing, and they actually bring up his heraldry, and they give him this fancy Latin name, and they say, and the guy from the heraldry turns around to him and says, "Oh, it means the world is not enough." And I thought that is so cool, because movie number 19, the 19th James Bond movie that came out in 1999, is called The World Is Not Enough. So the Bond family crest has on it, in Latin, the world is not enough. So I thought that was kind of cool. Another thing that I thought was really cool is that in one of the fight scenes, just after they get up to the thing when they're coming back to do the fight scene and everything else, is they got this scene of James Bond is like skidding along the ice on his stomach, firing a rifle. And I thought that was so cool. It looked really cool. And they talked about later on about how they did that and all of that sort of stuff. They talked about the bobsled action that they have in the movie. And one of the stunt guys was talking about it, and he said, we were just losing control of these bobsleds. He said, there didn't seem to be, it didn't seem to be any skill to this bobsledding thing, but just hang on. I'm sure there was a lot of people that would have said that. They had this race there. Of course, it was all done in ice and snow, so they got to film that. And they said they were just having fun, just skidding around in this thing and filming it and just having a blast. Then in mid-March, they needed to do the avalanche scene. They wanted this big avalanche when they were doing all the skiing and things. And so they found this valley that was uninhabited. And they went up in helicopters and dropped 3 bombs. And then they had this 2-mile wide avalanche that started, and it just came down. And I'll tell you, in the movie, it looks phenomenal. And it went off way better than they ever anticipated. They said it was really, really cool. And let's see, the premiere for that was December the 18th, 1969. And my favorite line from the entire movie is at the beginning. They have this fight. He starts off with this fight scene. Of course, you don't see George Lazenby's face till well into the movie. You see his hands, you see him on the steering wheel, you see him driving down onto the beach to save this girl who looks like she's about to go and walk into the water to commit suicide or whatever. And you see him running along the beach and everything else and into the water to save her. And it wasn't until that point that you turn around and you actually see his face. And of course he goes, "Hi, my name's Bond, James Bond." So you get that famous line. But they end up having this big fight. There's this big fight scene that takes place on the beach, which is really cool. It goes into the water and onto the sand and all that. And at the end of it, at the end of the fight and all of that, the girls run away in his car up to the top of the thing to get back on her car and take off. And he just stands there. He looks straight into the camera and says, "This never happened to the other guy." That was brilliant. Oh, no, this never happened to the other fella. I wrote it down. But get this. So it opened on December the 18th, 1969. And for the week ending December 24th, 1969, On Her Majesty's Secret Service was #1 with $1,223,000 in box office. And the second place was Easy Rider with $550,500, followed by Hello Dolly, Oliver, and Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. That's the top 5 movies for the week ending December 24th, 1969. I mean, On Her Majesty's Secret Service just opened up well ahead of everybody, twice as much as everybody else, which was just amazing. But they said that, and there's all this, I mean, even watching the making of it and talking about how George Lazenby only ended up doing 1 Bond movie, it's kind of all skirted around and twisted around that you couldn't really get a clear story. It's sort of like, well, he didn't think it was going to go very far, because he thought everybody wanted something like Easy Rider, and so he was only going to do the one. And then the producers said, well, the movie wasn't making enough money, so they fired the star because they figured it was his fault. So there was all of this stuff going around in there, and then you get the press in there, and the press were doing things like, they were reporting that there was all this, that 007 was feuding with everybody on the set and all this sort of stuff. So, and they said there was no feuding going on. Where they get this stuff from? This is back in the 60s. They're making stuff up in the 60s. They've been making it up for a long time, so go figure. So it was kind of interesting. So tonight is Diamonds Are Forever. I'm not sure if I'm going to be watching it because my brain is fried right now, so I may leave Diamonds Are Forever until tomorrow when I get back from Apache Junction, which is where I'm heading to tomorrow. So tomorrow's going to be a busy day. I've got a couple of things to do in the morning for work. Then I'm going to go up to Apache Junction, visit a ghost town up there. There's a mercantile up there that looks really interesting. Go to Superstition Mountain Museum, learn about some of the myths and legends and the mysteries surrounding Superstition Mountains. And then I've also got to do pre-trip travel. I am heading back to Riverbend for 3 nights. And after that, I don't know. I'm trying to find somewhere that has space. But all the snowbirds are coming to town or come south into Arizona and California. So it's going to be interesting. So I have a phone call to make in the morning because there's one place that says they had limited availability, but you have to call. So I'll be calling them in the morning to see if I can get in. But yeah, so it's kind of interesting to see that places are starting to back up. So I can't go to any of my other places until I find out if this one's actually got space for me. So that's where we're at right now. Hope you all have a super fantastic, sparkling evening. Diamonds Are Forever, I'm going to do tomorrow, and Sean Connery is back for that one. And after I watch the making of it, I'll be able to tell you why he was back and why it was only 1 movie that he came back for. Okay, so have a super fantastic, sparkling evening, and we will catch you guys tomorrow. Thank you for hanging with me for so long. I didn't realize I've talked for 35 minutes, so I apologize for the length. But hope you got some good information out of it. Lots happening. We will catch you guys tomorrow. Hei konera.